Imagine waking up and realizing that an entire hour, or even an entire day, is missing from your memory. No explanation, no evidence, just gone. What if I told you that there's a theory claiming that something could be feeding on that missing time, invisible, undetectable, but always hungry? Welcome to the mystery of the Chronovores, the hypothetical creatures that consume time itself. This is Singularity Animations, where we turn the strangest theories of science and the most disturbing mysteries of philosophy into unforgettable stories. Today, we're asking a question most physicists wouldn't dare to entertain. Could there be life forms we can't see, not because they are too small or too far away, but because they live between the moments of time itself? The word chronovore comes from two Greek roots. Chronos meaning time and vorare meaning to devour. The term first appeared in science fiction, most notably in Michael Moorcock's 1969 novel Behold the Man and later in his Dancers at the End of Time series, where chronovores are described as cosmic predators who eat the very fabric of time. But the idea has since slipped into fringe physics and philosophy circles, where it is used to describe a fascinating possibility. What if the universe is full of entities that interact with time the way we interact with food, consuming, processing, and leaving behind what we experience as temporal distortions? Let's step into the real world for a moment. Throughout history, there have been bizarre reports of missing time, moments where individuals or even entire groups cannot account for hours or days. One of the most famous examples is the Frederick Valentich disappearance in 1978. Valentich, an Australian pilot, vanished mid-flight over Bay Strait. Before radio contact was lost, he reported a strange, motionless object above him. His plane was never found, and neither was he. Now, skeptics attribute this to disorientation or accident. But some fringe researchers have suggested that cases like this might be evidence of local temporal anomalies, a feeding event, in chronovore terminology. Is there any scientific basis for the idea of something eating time? Physicists like Julian Barbour, author of The End of Time, argue that time itself may not be fundamental at all, just a series of nows stitched together by memory. If that's true, then a disruption in the stitching could look like a gap in our experience. Even more compelling is the research of Nobel laureate Frank Wilczek, who proposed time crystals in 2012, systems that exhibit motion without using energy, effectively creating a repeating pattern in time. If time can form patterns, could it also be disrupted, broken, or consumed? And then there's Roger Penrose's conformal cyclic cosmology, the idea that the universe passes through infinite cycles of death and rebirth. Between cycles, information might leak forward. If information can cross cosmic time boundaries, why not entities that feed on it? Let's run with the predator analogy. If chronovores exist, how would they behave? A 2018 paper by philosopher Nick Bostrom explored the concept of substrate independence of consciousness, which implies that consciousness could exist in forms we can't detect. A chronovore might not be made of matter at all, but of time-structured events. These creatures wouldn't need to attack you directly. They'd simply graze on the temporal field around you, causing localized distortions. Déjà vu could be a minor feeding event, a moment that's been replayed as they consume and reset the temporal state. Time dilation under extreme stress, observed by neuroscientists like David Eagleman, might not just be a brain effect, but an artifact of temporal consumption nearby. Consider the missing time phenomenon often reported in UFO abduction cases, documented by researchers like Bud Hopkins in the 1980s. Victims frequently reported waking hours later with no memory of what happened, as though time had been eaten. Or the Dyatlov Pass incident in 1959, 9 experienced hikers died under mysterious circumstances in the Ural Mountains. Their injuries were bizarre, radiation was present, and no one knows why they fled their tents. Some fringe theorists claim a temporal disturbance caused a mass panic, possibly triggered by a feeding chronovore. If chronovores are real, what does that mean for us? Physicist John Wheeler once said, "Time is what prevents everything from happening at once." If chronovores consume time, then they are literally eating the order of the universe, pushing us closer to chaos. It might explain why we experience time as moving forward. Maybe we are running from the feeding zone, fleeing into the next moment, just fast enough to stay ahead of the predator. Imagine this final, eerie thought. What if the end of the universe, heat death, where everything stops, is not natural entropy, but the final feast of the chronovores? The last moment, stretched out infinitely, as the last scraps of time are consumed. Maybe, in the silence of the far future, there will be only one last tick, the final bite. This was Singularity Animations, where we turn science and philosophy into stories that challenge everything you think you know about reality. If you enjoyed this journey into the strange world of chronovores, like this video and subscribe, because next time, we're going even deeper. And tell us in the comments. Do you think time is just a dimension, or could it be a resource that something is quietly devouring?